was interesting. We were talking to Mike Brown here first, and he mentioned the idea of this team having to prove itself. And I found that interesting because you guys played in the Super Bowl, played in the AFC Championship. You bring back this core of a team. Do you still feel like this team needs to prove itself?
Well, I think that we always have a chip on our shoulder is the way I would look at it, you know, and I certainly feel like going into every season we have so much work we have to do because we have high expectations for ourselves, higher than people can ever imagine. But we know because we've been a part of it, how much work has to be put in over the next 47 days to be ready for Cleveland. And so we don't take that for granted. Yeah, we're not afraid to embrace the expectations, and who cares what the narrative is outside the building. But I think this team is always going to have a chip on their shoulder, and that's just the way that these players have been built, and I appreciate that about them, and won't do anything to take that edge off of them.
Edge, good word there, because this team had an edge the last two seasons. The first year of the Super Bowl run, it was the why not us, changed into it is us. Then last year was they got to play us kind of thing. This team has really relished having an edge that it manufactured for itself. Yeah. As a head coach, get to do that again, because now no one thinks, oh, the Bengals are this underdog story anymore, right?
Yeah.
So how do you manufacture an edge for a team that's done so well the last 2 years?
You don't have to manufacture it. It comes at you. It usually hits you right in the face at the right moment to give the right message to the team. And that's the thing is I don't look to manufacture anything because it doesn't feel as genuine. I think the players can feel that forcedness. So you get a chance to get this team into training camp, and the team starts to take shape as the practices unfold. And usually I found that in my brain, the best messages I've had usually are ones that just naturally take shape and feel right at the right moment, and the team feeds off of that.
Is it daunting as a coach and a team, knowing you were so close 2 years in a row, that you have to start over? Just because you made it there last year doesn't mean you get a pass
right.
back to the playoffs this year. Is it hard knowing you got to do it all over again?
I think that's what this team appreciates, because we know how hard it is, and that this year will be no different. And if you're fortunate enough to have done the things to put yourself in a position to be playing in January, you've been through that battle where you know how hard it was to get there and how hard it is to survive every single week and thrive. And so that's something we have tucked away, that we've got to put in the work, we've got to put ourselves in position to have a great year. And if those situations arise, then this team's got the experience to do great things.
Zach, speaking of experience, how important was it, and what kind of an edge does it give you to have Joe Mixon back, not have to go out on the market, maybe not have to develop somebody you already have a guy familiar with the system who's so entrenched with this team? That's
key, you know, and we've really been preaching that the whole offseason is how much we value Joe and what he means to this team, this franchise, and the city. And, you know, I think that he's really earned his stripes here as a player, and so to be able to run it back with him another year, it gives us a great chance to do the things that we talk about doing, and so we're appreciative to get Joe back.
How do you build him up and convince him of that when he's had to take a pay cut?
I don't think I have to build him up and convince him of anything. He's been about this team since day one. He and I have always had a great relationship, and so, again, he wants to win, and I think he understood that to help this team, those are the decisions that had to be made, and really appreciative of how he's handled the whole situation and able to move forward and just help this team win games.
We talked to Mike, we talked to Duke, and we asked over and over again about Joe Burrow and the contract, T. Higgins and the contract, and they talked about that, but Duke made a point that, listen, we've got all these guys this year, so we're trying to keep them as many as we can for a long time, but how much do you have to focus this team on this year? Look, whatever happens, the future happens, but we've got this group, and we've got this chance with this group to do something.
Yeah, that's my job, you know, is to make sure we're focused on being the best team we can in 2023 and having the best training camp we've had yet. And fortunately, those guys get to worry about all the great issues that we deal with winning and having great players. But for me, it's very simple. Just get this team ready for the next day and make sure that we're getting better every single day and ready for week 1 against Cleveland. That's the fun part about my job.
When you do get a team together and before training camp starts, do you have a message in mind that you want to deliver to these guys so they have the mindset you're talking about?
Yeah, there's certain things that we always want to make sure we're focusing on. And so as every day passes, it gives you a chance to refocus. I won't share them all here, but there certainly is a clear message on things that we want to set forth in training camp to improve on and make sure we've ironed out by the time the first game rolls around. And just things that as weeks pass, those guys can think back on that week and if we've really improved them as a team or not. And that's exciting to have these team meetings and deliver some of these messages.
You mentioned having the best training camp you ever had. What's the criteria for that?
Your quarterback being able to practice and all the practices is usually pretty good. You know, that's one thing I do is go back and watch the first practice of previous training camps just to refresh, you know, the rules of how you practice and things that you got to stress and things maybe that happened last year or 3 years ago. And the one thing that stands out is you know, Brandon Allen, Jake Browning taking a lot of reps last year, you know, and then you look back at every year, and you all know this, but Burrow hasn't had a chance to have a normal day one training camp on July 25th or 26th, whatever the date is. Right. So that's exciting, but again, this team just having that edge that not taking for granted what we've done in the past, and we've got to reestablish our foundations and put in this work to regain that chemistry that we've had in years past, and that's what training camp's for.
What is the next level for Joe? Is there a next level for a guy who's played at the level he's played at?
I think every year that passes, there's things he stores away, moments he's been in, coverages he's seen, looks he's seen. Those are the things that great players store away and build off of, and he's got plenty of those big moments he gets to store away now. But the biggest point I always make about the quarterback being an extension of the coaching staff is making sure the new pieces are brought up to speed in their own way, the player way. And that's Irv Smith, that's Orlando Brown, that's the running backs, and him communicating with them the way he wants them to communicate with him as games go. And the coaches, we do our part, but it's also on the quarterback to make sure that those guys are up to speed and playing at the level that we all expect them to.
Zach, to have Joe healthy through a whole training camp, how much of a difference will that make to the beginning of the year?
Well, you know, last year we lost the turnover battle 5-0 in the first game, and so that's a big team thing that we always chalk up. Is we turned the ball over too much, we didn't take any away. You're never going to win games at 5-0. So I think that this team had a good training camp last year and was ready to go for the season. I know Joe will be thankful to get these practices that he missed last year. But again, it's early in the season. What you learn is the turnover battle is so critical. It's always critical, but especially early in the year when there's some unknowns with some of the opponents you're playing against.
So when you do have a week one like you did last year with turnovers and Joe not looking like his normal self, do you change anything with how you approach preseason games?
No, that's a year-to-year thing.
Yeah.
And so, again, not ever taking off the table our guys getting some reps that maybe haven't played years past. That's something I've got in my head how it's going to play out. We'll see when those weeks come how we want to do it, but that's really a year-to-year thing on where this team's at and kind of what the vibe is on the roster.
Zach, how different is it for you? You know, the first couple of seasons, 2 wins, 4 wins, to have this level of talent to work with. How different is that for you, at least in training camp?
I thought you said difficult. I was like, it's not
No.
difficult. It's no, it's good. These are, I think the organization, everybody involved has done such great work to put us in a position where expectations are high. We've got really good talent. It's exciting talent. And now it's our job to throw all that away and reestablish ourselves here in training camp and just isolate ourselves from the outside world. Certainly internally embrace high expectations we have for ourselves, but also understanding there's so much that goes into it to be in a position to be able to win in this league and do it consistently. And so this team, in a lot of ways, has to do a lot to reestablish ourselves over the course of this training camp.
You said expectations are higher within your own organization, your coaching staff, your team, than anybody outside. Everybody in Cincinnati expects Super Bowls and Joe Burrow to win the MVP. What could you have that's higher than what the fans have?
There's a sharpness, attention to detail. I think that this expected amongst our own players and coaches. That we feel like, you know, it's unbelievably year 5 on offense and defense of these schemes. You know, the continuity that we've had with the lack of change at coordinators. Darren's obviously got decades worth of continuity there. So I think that's something our guys, you know, they're not hearing it for the first time. They're hearing it in some cases for the 5th time. And so the attention to detail is always going to continue to increase when we've got that kind of experience.
Speaking of attention to detail, it seems to be a common trait with quarterbacks, including yourself. I mean, you guys have memory for plays, all the details of the play. I mean, Joe's, though, is like extraordinary. Isn't his recall of, you know, everything about that particular play, no matter when you pulled from?
Yeah, we watch it enough times where it feels like you just lived it yesterday, you know. But I think great quarterbacks have that that recall, they've played the game over so many times in their head where they can tell you exactly where everybody was standing. You know, I can't do that. You know, but that's part of what makes Joe great is he sees from sideline to sideline, end zone to end zone, different than any of us standing in this room. And so that's what makes those guys special. And you know, that's the fun part is hearing guys recall different situations and how they remember it is a fun part of coaching.
Zach, the excitement with your fan base for this football team and this program right now, can that energize from within as well?
I think we isolate ourselves from it pretty good once the season gets going. You know, we're in our routine. I don't have a lot of association with the outside world once the season gets going. I know the players are different because their days are maybe a little shorter and they go to dinner and things like that. So I can't speak for them, but I just know once camp starts, the doors kind of shut on us and we're in our own world. That's the way it should be. You know, we shouldn't be listening to what other people are saying and because we know the work that's got to be put in to be as successful as we want to be.
Zach, how was this time off compared to earlier years that you've had, and how important is that time away from the game to get you ready for what you got to do starting now?
It's very necessary, you know, to be able to appreciate the other side of life than just working all the time. And so I do my best to decompress and enjoy moments sitting on the couch, drinking coffee, watching television. And, you know, our family has gotten really into just watching old movies, ones that I appreciated as a kid. So with my two sons, we watched Blue Chips the other night. So again, I try to appreciate those times where the stress isn't here yet. It's just relaxing, drinking coffee, sitting on the couch with your family, watching Blue Chips.
What else besides Blue Chips?
We watched Moneyball. They're into sports movies right now, the boys particularly. So Moneyball, Blue Chips.
Remember the Titans?
They've seen some of the really good ones a lot. The one with the daughters was the Mitchells Against the Machines on Netflix. That's a great one if you got young kids. That's pretty funny. So we probably watched 30 movies this summer.
Coach, how much of a difference is there going from being the lovable underdogs to having the target on your back like you guys do?
We don't approach it any differently. Again, I think these guys always have this chip on their shoulder that people aren't going to give them the credit they deserve, and that's a good thing. I'll do nothing to take that away from them.
Good deal.
Great. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, Zach.